Today we're running down the top 12 games for the Nintendo GameCube. Up first at number 12, Luigi's Mansion. This game is probably most famous, or infamous, for not being a Mario game. Nintendo had kicked off their last two home consoles with flagship Mario games. And why wouldn't we be getting a Mario game to launch the GameCube? What we got was Luigi's Mansion, a most definitely not Mario game, headlined by not Mario number 1, Luigi. For all this hullabaloo, Luigi's Mansion is a brilliantly charming, lighthearted horror title that offers lots of laughs, lots of fun, and with a short runtime, doesn't overstay its welcome. Up next at number 11, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader. I'm not intentionally getting all the launch games out of the way early, but Rogue Leader was another excellent launch title from the now defunct Factor 5. The tight controls, attractive graphics, and excellent voice acting pushed Rogue Squadron 2 over other space shooters like Star Fox Assault. It might not feature as entertaining an intro as Rogue Squadron 3, but Rogue Leader benefits in keeping things in the air, avoiding those painfully awkward ground missions Rebel Strike threw at us. Zooming in at number 10 is F-Zero GX. You might have noticed I feature a lot of F-Zero on this channel, and this game actually appeared as early as the second episode of Retro Tech Select. Nintendo claims they need an exciting new idea for F-Zero before we get another entry, and if that's more than PR spin, Sega might have killed this franchise for good with GX. They absolutely nailed the F-Zero formula with this title, giving fans everything we could have hoped for, and more. GX is blazing fast, features tons of racers and a variety of courses, controls so well it might be too precise, and it even includes a cheesy story mode for those that love brutal difficulty. Somebody please pitch Nintendo a new idea for this franchise. After losing key RPGs to Sony with the N64, the GameCube was home to a surprising number of excellent RPGs like the beautiful Baten Kaitos, Tales of Symphonia, and From Software's Lost Kingdoms. For the sake of keeping our RPGs to one traditional and one strategy title, I had to make some hard cuts. I would love to feature those other titles, but because I can only choose one, number 9 is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. This game gushes personality and may be the last Paper Mario game that puts rich RPG elements at the forefront. The Thousand Year Door is also one of the funniest games ever produced, making it a blast to play, or watch a friend play. Plus, it co-stars Goomba Bernie Sanders. That has to count for something, right? Coming in at number 8 is a game that took me forever to finally get a hold of. Fire Emblem: Path of Radiance. After Marth and My Boy Roy made a big splash in Super Smash Bros., Nintendo just had to let the West in on where they came from. Path of Radiance was the first Fire Emblem game to grace a home console in the US, and it was well worth the wait. Despite looking a bit like a late PS1 game, Path of Radiance is a prime example of everything that the strategy RPG genre has to offer. There are lots of memorable characters showcased in this sprawling adventure, and almost any of them can be lost permanently if you make the wrong move in battle. Just try not to faint when you see the price tag on this puppy. It may have started trends that would tarnish the franchise in later installments, but our next title was still a huge leap forward from the visually impressive Remake and Resident Evil 0 that had previously graced the GameCube. For better or worse, number 7 redefined the franchise with Resident Evil 4. What you buying? If you own a GameCube, hopefully the answer is Resident Evil 4. As the heaviest hitter in the exclusivity deal that Capcom struck with Nintendo, Resident Evil 4 made a lot of Xbox owners envious when it launched to critical acclaim. There was an enhanced PS2 port eventually, but that would come at the expense of the heavy graphical downgrades required to make this game run on Sony's underpowered hardware. Can you hear the salt in my voice? Resident Evil 4 is at its best and most challenging here on the Nintendo GameCube. At number 6, Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo! The same fans who were disappointed to see Luigi's Mansion launch with the GameCube instead of a proper Mario 64 follow-up were likely also disappointed with the reveal of Super Mario Sunshine. Mario has left the Mushroom Kingdom to vacation on Isle Delfino, and he's anything but business in this game. Just check out those short sleeves. Still wearing the gloves though. Sunshine might be a bit janky at points, but it's altogether an excellent platformer with a large hub world and lots of variety. Mario's new flood device adds a whole new element to the platforming, and the secret areas even offer a bit of a challenge for those of us who grew up with the portly plumber. MK8 might be the better game, but my favorite Mario Kart drives in at number 5, Mario Kart Double Dash. Why does it seem like every game on this list is controversial in some way? Double Dash is sometimes looked on as the black sheep of the Mario Kart franchise, but it's a personal favorite of mine. Sure, Mario Kart 64 is more iconic, and Mario Kart 8 is more refined, but Double Dash had something going with the 2-driver, 2-item approach, it might have the best local multiplayer of the bunch, and it debuted many of the best courses the franchise has seen so far. Alongside Super Circuit, Double Dash might be the most underrated game in the Mario Kart lineup. Speaking of Mario Kart Super Circuit, the Game Boy player technically opens up the entire GBA library for this video. Stay on target. Number 4. Super Smash Bros. Melee! I'll bet you were all expecting this to be number 1 on this list. Smash Bros. Melee is no doubt the best multiplayer game on the GameCube, and one of the best multiplayer games of all time. It features an awesome lineup of fighters, competition-worthy mechanics, and it's still accessible enough that anyone can pick up the awkward beauty that is the GameCube controller to button mash through a series of friendship-testing brawls. If Smash Bros. Melee is number 4, the rest of this list must be legendary. I have to start number 3 with an apology to Twilight Princess. It got snubbed in the top 12 Wii U list I put together previously, and it's about to happen again. In its place at number 3, Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Adding yet another game to this list that ruffled some feathers when it was released, Wind Waker's art style was a far cry from the Space World 2000 tech demo that fans were expecting from the next Zelda title. While that made for somewhat lackluster sales initially, that same art style has helped the game hold up exceptionally over time. Wind Waker is gorgeous to this day, its storyline is engrossing, and exploring the high seas makes this entry feel the most open out of any Zelda title before Breath of the Wild. Remember how I already did a survival horror game? Forget that. I make no apologies for adding a third horror game to this list. At number 2, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. I hardly need to justify breaking my own rules to include Eternal Darkness on this list. Anyone who's watched my review of the game knows it was a huge deciding factor for me in getting the GameCube in the first place. Thankfully, this game didn't disappoint. The mix of magic, horror, and mystery that Sanity's Requiem brings to the table is unparalleled in the survival horror genre. Eternal Darkness takes you on an epic journey across time and into the depths of human fear. It doesn't just torture the game's many playable characters, but comes after the player as well. There must really be a special game coming up for this to have missed the number 1 spot. And my number 1 game on the Nintendo GameCube, Metroid Prime. In keeping with the rest of their decisions on the GameCube, Nintendo made the controversial decision to turn Metroid over to Western developer Retro Studios, who refashioned the legendary 2D side-scroller into a first-person adventure game. Cries of blasphemy came from all across the gaming world, and Retro was left with the impossible task of bringing Metroid into 3D. Luckily for all of us, they delivered in spades. Metroid Prime captures all of the elements we love about the franchise, exploration, isolation, those damn dirty space pirates, and ushers them into gorgeous 3D environments with geometry that it's hard to believe Nintendo's little box is even capable of. Prime 2 may have introduced some new elements to the franchise, but the 3D Metroid experience has never been done better than here in the very first Metroid Prime. And that's it for today's list. Let me know in the comment section if I forgot your favorite game, and I'll see you all in the next Retro Tech Select.